-21082 People versus Count Teresa Leo Mighty Trevino. We are here today for sentencing in this case. We are proceeding today in person. First, let me ask the attorneys to place their appearance on the record. Wise.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jackie Wise and Douglas Hartung on behalf of the people.
James Yelling, behalf of the current.
All right, sir, you are Count Teresa Leo Mighty Trevino.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Trevino, have you had an opportunity to read and review your pre-sentence report?
Yes, sir.
Had an opportunity to discuss that report with Mr. Daly?
Briefly.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Daly and the advice that he's giving you?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish to explain or challenge the accuracy or the relevancy of any of the information that is in the pre-sentence report?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
So it was minor discrepancies as far as my marital status was, and also in the section of tattoos and marks, there were tattoos that I do not have listed on there.
Your Honor, page 12 lists the tattoos.
So you'd indicated, Mr. Trevino, there's something wrong with the marriage.
Yes,
What
under
is that?
the marital status, they put that I was single, which I'm married.
Okay, under the heading marriage on page 12, it states the defendant reports that he's currently married to Casey Trevino as they married in May of 2001.
Yeah, it says it there on the front part somewhere on the PS. I don't have it in front of me. Under the
Oh,
marriage.
I see. Okay, the cover page.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So the cover page then would need to be amended to indicate that Mr. Trevino is married and not single.
And as far as the gang tattoos, I don't have that in front of me either. But the only one I do have that is listed on there is, I believe, the number 1 and the flames. Those are the only tattoos that are listed I actually do have. All the other ones I do not have. The bullets in a flame, the number 1, the hand holding a revolver, and a large cross. All the other ones after that, I do not have.
So you're saying you do not have a tattoo on your left front forearm that says Crips?
No, sir.
Where does that information come from? Or, I mean,
Your Honor, I do believe that came from a prior PSI, but based on a 2017 transcript we have, I do see that the tattoo Crips was stricken from that PSI because they were unable to locate that on Mr. Trevino after looking at him. There was a tattoo on his left forearm that said Crips that was also stricken. And the tattoo on the left front face of the LC below the left eye was also stricken in that transcript. So I have no objection to having those stricken, but there were other tattoos when the court is ready that were identified during the course of this trial and presented as evidence that I do believe needs to be added to the PSI.
all right. So the tattoo left front forearm Crips, people agree with deleting that.
Correct.
Tattoo left back forearm that reads Stunna, STUNNA.
I have no information as to that one, Your Honor. Maybe he's sitting here if you want to look at his left
All right, Mr. Trevino, would you mind showing us the left back forearm?
I do not see a stunner tattoo.
Okay, so we will delete that one, and then there's another left forearm crip with a crown and 5. You're agreeing to deleting that one?
I believe so, Your Honor.
And then left front face LC, you indicate you agree with deleting that.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. All right, and you, Ms. Wise, believe that some tattoos should be added.
That's correct, Your Honor, and they were presented during the trial on the chest, and I can email afterwards if it's easier to just go through them and then send it later. On the chest, there's a shield, a knight, and swords with the writing the almighty insane Latin count below that.
No objection.
Lower left abdomen, there's a knight, and it says Sir True.
No objection.
Okay, so just let me just state for the record, Mr. Trevino was indicated he has no objection to adding the first 2 tattoos indicated by Ms. Wise.
There is one on the collarbone. I believe it reads Count's World.
No objection.
So we'll add that.
On the right side of the face, there's the word Latin, the word Casey Jane, the word righteousness, and there's a spider web and an upside down A.
No objection.
All right, so those will be added as well.
On the left side of the face, there's a knight, the word counts, and also an upside down A.
No objection.
Will be added also.
On the left arm, there's the words rip, seize, and it lists numerous Latin counts who are deceased.
No objection.
And that is,
There's also on the left arm praying hands, a knight, and a shield.
No objection.
be added also.
And on the back, it says solo.
No objection.
And be added also.
Thank you. That's it as far as tattoos. Your Honor, when would you like me to address the habitual? So he was also charged as a 4th offense habitual. Okay.
Just finish with Mr. Trevino. Were there any other inaccuracies or any other information which challenge the relevancy of in the pre-sentence investigation report?
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
Okay. I would just indicate also on the cover page, it's no psychiatric history, but then in the body of the report, it does reference some psychiatric history, so I think that should be correct.
Your Honor, it was also brought to my attention earlier that I had sent over a corrected PSI. And on the cover page, it was deleted that he was found not guilty of weapons conspiracy. Do you have that latest PSI that I sent over this week? Under the plea agreement, it should read the defendant was found guilty by a jury of the above counts. Period.
That is how mine reads.
What I want to make sure.
Okay. All right, Mr. Daly, does the pre-sentence report disclose any prior convictions in which there existed any constitutional?
No.
All right, so that brings us to guidelines. Mr. Trevino had been charged as a habitual offender 4th offense notice. At the end of the trial, we discussed that briefly and decided that we would address that issue today. Daly, does Mr. Trevino wish to proceed with the hearing on the habitual offender issue, or to admit to those offenses.
We don't object to that, Chair.
All right, Mr. Tribune, would you raise your hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Ms. Wise, if you wouldn't mind, would you voir dire on the previous convictions you have in the front of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And on some-
Mr. Trevino, on file 029651FC, were you convicted of weapons, felony, firearm, discharge, in or out of building?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also convicted of felonious assault?
That was vacated. I don't know if that still counts. My felonious assault was vacated.
Okay. Were you also charged with carrying a dangerous weapon with unlawful intent
Yes, ma'am.
and felony firearms?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were convicted of those counts, correct?
Yes.
And in file 029653FC, were you also convicted of weapons, firearm, discharge in or at a building?
Yes, ma'am.
And in file 029654FC, were you also convicted of weapons, firearm, discharge in or at a building?
Yes, ma'am.
In file 029799FH, were you convicted of witness, bribing, intimidating, or interfering with?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In file 1517598FH, were you convicted of an accessory after the fact to a felony with a habitual offender's second offense notice?
Yes, ma'am.
I have the certified copies of those convictions if the court would like for the record, for the file.
So based on the guideline scoring as it is, that would modify the minimum sentencing guideline range on count one. The low end would remain 365 months. The high end, the minimum range would be 1,200 months. Same with respect to count two. 3 would change from 270 months to 450 months, as it's indicated now, to 270 months to 900 months. And count 4 would change from 117 to 160 to 117 to 320. So that is how the probation, based on the scoring of the PRVs and the OVs, how the minimum sentencing guidelines would be calculated. Ms. Wise, do you agree with that computation of guidelines?
I do, and just for the record, the OVs were updated this morning to accurately reflect the scoring. So it did change from a couple days ago from 165 on the total OVs to 145, which doesn't affect the grid. And I don't know if the court got a copy of that or if you need to place
I do
those.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Daly, does the defense agree with the computation of guidelines?
You do that.
Before the court passes sentence, then, Mr. Daly, is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of Mr. Trevino?
Yeah, I've had several opportunities to discuss this issue with Mr. Trevino. Mr. Trevino is choosing not to say anything today. I would point out to the court that Mr. Trevino has maintained from the very beginning that he was innocent of this charge. He's pled not guilty. He has not changed his position on that. And with taking a position that he did not know this, he really doesn't want to be in here asking this court for consideration for something that he didn't do. He will rely upon the record as it was presented. We would obviously ask for the low end of the guidelines. And I know that other individuals are going to speak today. And I know that for the families of the deceased victim, they've also received a sentence that stays within the rest of their life. That's the case that Mr. Trevino is in right now. But beyond that, we have nothing else to add at this time.
Thank you, Mr. David. Mr. Trevino, you do have the right to speak if you wish. So I will ask you, is there anything you'd like to say on your own behalf before the court passes sentence?
Sir.
Thank you. Ms. Wise, do the people wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. Before I bring Ms. Dickerson to the stand, there was one more issue on page 12 I had, and it's right under the gang affiliation. It says start date unknown, end date 2017. He was obviously convicted of gang crimes in this matter, so I would ask to change that end date. I would ask the court to put current. There's no information that he was ever taken out of the Latin counts, but at a very minimum, he was a Latin count based on a jury verdict in January of 2019, Your Honor. So I'd ask to amend that.
All right, Mr. Daly, your response to that?
No, Your Honor.
Do you believe that the record in this case and the conviction for count 4, the gang crimes count, supports the finding that Mr. Trevino remains a current member of the Latin counts and therefore it is appropriate? So it would make that change to pre-sentence investigation report as well.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before I speak, I would call Tracy Dickerson to address the court.
Good morning, Your
Good morning, Ms. Dickerson. If you just state your full name and then you can say whatever it is you'd like to say.
Tracy Dickerson. Before I start, I would like to thank all the ones that have helped in getting justice for my son, which include, but not limited to, Detective Sharp, Detective Greca, Detective Ruffner, Detective Ward, and others. Prosecutors Jackie Weiss and Doug Hartung, and the victim rights advocates Rebecca Roller and Rochelle Petty. They have all spent thousands of hours on Chris's case. Your Honor, it has not been easy on any of them to deal with me. Times I didn't even want to deal with myself, but they never gave up on me, even if I had given up on myself. Thank you all. Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to speak today. I honestly don't even know where to begin. First of all, it has been 1,606 days since Chris was murdered. Your Honor, not a single day goes by that I don't miss my son immensely. Most nights I find myself crying myself to sleep. That's if I sleep at all. These past 4.5 years have been excruciating, to say the least. Everyone tells me all the time, I don't know how you do it. There's only one answer to that. And that is, I wasn't given a choice. I would like to take a little time today to tell you about the Chris I knew. My son was born January 27, 1992. I think from the time he could walk, he was carrying a football. Chris loved football. He played football all the way throughout his whole school years. Chris made one of his biggest dreams come true when he was able to play in the state championship game on Ford Field. Another one of Chris's passions was singing. He would sing for hours, whether he was in the bathroom, in his room, or in the car. He would say, Mama, after I win American Idol, I'm going to buy you your dream home. Chris had the most beautiful smile. Chris could not stand for anyone to be mad at him. He would not stop until he made things right. He loved to pick on his younger brother, Jacob. He also loved sitting and watching football with his brothers. Chris and his brothers were as close as you can get. They had a brotherly love and bond like no other. You see, Your Honor, this is the son I knew and lost. When these monsters planned and murdered my son, they didn't just murder my son, they also murdered the life that I once lived. My new life is filled with what ifs, regrets, and the guilt is almost unbearable. Your Honor, my son sacrificed his life to protect me and his brothers from these monsters. Chris left my home because he feared they would track him down and that we would be hurt also. If Chris would have just stayed at home, I could have protected him somehow. Because that's what a mother does, protect her children. When Chris left the house, he was out there all alone with no support, no safe place to go. I just wanted him to come home. Your Honor, my son lost his life in a dark, freezing, wooded area. When these monsters would talk about Chris after they murdered him, they referred to him as Frosty the Snowman. I can still feel how brutally cold it was back then. We had record-setting lows of negative 40-degree wind chill. I remember praying that my son was not out there somewhere hurt, there in that freezing cold when he was missing. They found my son. His body was frozen solid. It took 3 days to thaw his body so they could do an autopsy. Because of what they done to my son and leaving him out there in the woods, I was not able to see my son and tell him goodbye. Your Honor, I had to say goodbye to a casket. Chris had 2 children that he loved and worshiped. They will never know how much their dad loved them. My granddaughter will never get to experience a daddy-daughter dance with her dad. On that special day, her dad will not be there to walk her down the aisle. My grandson will never get to have his dad there to teach him everything about football or any of life's lessons. Your Honor, when my grandchildren visit their dad, they have to go to a cemetery to visit him. Chris has 3 brothers. My 4 boys were always together, either at my house, their house, football games, cookouts, you name it, they were together. Now, instead of picking up the phone to call him or come by just to hang out, now they have to go to the cemetery to talk or just hang out with Chris. Christmas was Chris's favorite holiday. He loved decorating the tree, and the boys and I would always bake cookies and decorate them. I can still hear Chris telling everyone, "Look, mine's the best." With that beautiful smile on his face. Yes, even after they were adults, this was our favorite tradition. Now I get a memorial tree every year for my son down at the Riverwalk. That is the only thing I have done for Christmas since 2019. I no longer put a tree up at home. And I have not baked or decorated cookies. You see, Your Honor, another tradition that was stolen from my family. They didn't just take a life, they took the life of someone who was loved dearly by so many. And in return, he loved so many. And Your Honor, I want to make this very clear. I cannot be that mother who stands up here and says, "I forgive this person," because that would be a lie. I hate this person with every ounce of my being. Will that kill me someday? Probably. But you see, Your Honor, the life I wanted to live ended January 22nd, 2019. Your Honor, right after they had found Chris, there was a post about Chris on Facebook. And this person sitting here commented on it saying Chris Dickerson rots. Your Honor, that is how cold-blooded this person is. He did not only destroy my family, but he destroyed his own family. There's only one big difference. His family can still talk to him, see him, even touch him. I do hope and pray this person never has to feel the unbearable pain that I am forced to live with the rest of my life, because I would not wish this on my worst enemy. When you have a child, you can never imagine a day without them, until someone who thinks they are God Almighty comes along and shows you. I do hope and pray that my son finds a way to hug this monster every day of the rest of his life, and that he will never have a second of peace. He made that choice for himself. When I think of Chris now, I can't help but think of him as a hero. Who knows how many mothers out there that Chris saved from having to go through what I have had to go through, thanks to him losing his life to these monsters. Your Honor, it does not matter how many years you sentence him to, it will never be enough. But I am begging you to sentence him to the maximum sentence that is allowed. Show him the same dignity and respect that he showed my son. Also, Your Honor, if you decide to order restitution, it would be greatly appreciated. I would also like you to know that it was brought to my attention through a screenshot of a post that this person's wife had posted. It read, "Almost there. Only $200 more and I will be able to get him right." My goal was $1,000 to make sure that he would be able to purchase all his personal needs for his devastating sentence. Because once my husband is entered into the MDOC, they will take half of his money for restitution. The only time that I can get him a decent amount of money in to cover him without them taking restitution is when he goes into the prison. You see, Your Honor, he is still manipulating the system and still victimizing me by trying to make sure I do not get any restitution. It just sickens me that he will be able to go into prison, order a TV, radio, food, all the things. If you were to order restitution, I probably will never see a penny of it. Your Honor, I miss my son so much. Thank you, and everyone who has helped get justice for my son, Christopher James Dickerson. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson.
Your Honor, the court has a copy of Mr. Trevino's, prior record, and we see the numerous shootings and he was charged with and involved in and witness intimidation. And it's for those reasons that his guidelines on the murder too fall between 365 to 1,200 months, Your Honor. I can't tell you the number of times that our office has been faced with witnesses who are terrified to come forward, witnesses who are terrified to give a statement, not only to the police, but to come to court and testify. Can't tell the court how many times I've been asked, how can I be assured that I won't be the next Chris Dickerson? I'm asking this court, and I submitted a letter requesting consecutive sentencing on count 4 on top of counts 1, 2, and 3. And I did that because I do want this court to send a message that we are not okay with preventing witnesses from telling police officers what happened, from telling judges, courts, and juries what happened. This court sat through a jury trial. We had jurors that were terrified to walk through the parking lot to their car for fear of retaliation. Mr. Dickerson was taken from his family, his friends. And I do believe the whole community felt that. And for those reasons, Your Honor, I'm asking you to sentence Mr. Trevino on the higher end of the guidelines. And I'm also asking the court to make count 4, the gang crime, consecutive to 1, 2, and 3. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay.
I'd like to be able to think that what we do here today makes a difference. Rather than just doling out a punishment to someone who's involved in a crime. How does the court, in its capacity, send a message of deterrence? I'd like to think the court has the ability still in this age to send that type of message to a community that's involved in a murder for hire, a solicitation, conspiracy of epic proportions. It's all based upon a mistaken, foolish premise. Court heard the testimony. The court is aware how unnecessary this whole murder for hire, murder sequence was. And we'd like to believe that there's some justice involved, not just with the punishment to the individual who's responsible for these crimes, but for the concept of what can we do as a legal community to prevent this from happening again. The only way that I am aware to send a message of deterrence is through what Ms. Weiss has indicated. The court has to consider strongly the concept of making these sentences consecutive, making these sentences stack upon each other to send a real message to those people who are right now thinking about how do we murder Austin Richardson? How do we murder David Taylor? How do we murder DeAndre Woodard? How do we murder Chris Carton? How do we murder Juan Vasquez? Because Mr. Cecil's trial is coming up again in the future. And all of those people's lives are at risk because they came in and testified against Latin counts. Thank you.
In determining the appropriate sentence in this case, the court considered the seriousness of the offense, their history, principle of proportionality, the statutory penalty, the cost of confinement, the report and recommendation of the probation department, as well as what's been said on the record here this morning. The criterion reasons for the sentence are the nature and gravity of the offenses, the discipline appropriate to their commission, deterrence against repetition by you and by others, indications of law, and the protection of society. Mr. Trevino is a 40-year-old man who in this case has been convicted of second-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation of murder, and gang crimes in connection with those crimes. Mr. Trevino has 11 prior felonies and 5 prior misdemeanors. As has been mentioned, numerous of those felonies involved other shootings, although it doesn't appear that others were hurt in those shootings. It does indicate, I think, complete lack of respect or disregard for human life, not just in this instance, but other instances in Mr. Trevino's life. This crime is one that was, it was cold, it was callous, it was calculated. The conviction here is a result of having a discussion while in Lenawee County Jail and essentially ordering a hit on Mr. Dickerson that was eventually carried out for the purpose of preventing Mr. Dickerson from testifying in a criminal trial. And so we have obviously the physical victim, Mr. Dickerson, who is no longer with us. He was killed and left for dead in a way that I can't imagine the pain that the family and friends of Mr. Dickerson must feel. I don't think any of us could imagine having a loved one put through that. So his family is victims as well, in a way that they likely will never recover from. Society is also a victim in this case. Society is a victim in every case, but particularly in this case, where a person was killed to prevent them from testifying at another trial. And on top of the heinous nature of killing another human being, of committing a murder, of taking a life, doing it for the purpose of undermining everything that this society is built on, undermining the basic rule of law, in my opinion, makes the crime all the more worse. So with respect to the murder conviction, as well as the conspiracy and solicitation convictions, the court has the ability to sentence to life or any term of years. With respect to a life sentence, Mr. Trevino would be eligible for parole after serving a mandatory minimum due to the habitual offender classification of 25 years in this case. I don't believe, given Mr. Trevino's past criminal history and crimes that were committed here, that that would be appropriate. I think the record well establishes that Mr. Trevino is a dangerous person who commits violent crimes when he is free. I think that the court's response to that should be to do what it can to make sure that that does not happen again. So I think the more proportional sentence would be term of years. With respect to sentencing a person to a term of years, the court is required by the law to establish a minimum sentence that the defendant has a reasonable opportunity to outlive. And have taken that into consideration in fashioning the whole sentence as well. But I don't think that, again, the de facto minimum of the life sentence is sufficient or proportional in this case, for the reasons that I've stated. It is going to be the sense of the court with respect to counts 1 and 2, that Mr. Trevino served 45 to 85 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. With respect to count 3, 37 years, 6 months to 65 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. And with respect to count 4, $15 years to 320 months with the Michigan Department of Corrections. We'll have credit for 435 days previously served. Must pay $272 state cost, $130 crime victims' rights fee, restitution payable to Tracy Dickerson in the amount of $2,490.40. With respect to the issue of whether those sentences are concurrent or consecutive, those sentences will be concurrent, and the reason for that is that I believe that the sentence on counts 1 and 2 make the issue of consecutive sentencing not a moot point, but I believe the court has accomplished in the sentences for count 1 and 2 what it intends to accomplish in a consecutive sentencing would meaningfully add to the overall sentence. That would be the sense of the court. Mr. Trevino, you do have the right to appeal. With like bailiff's going to hand to you 3 copies of a notice of right to appellate review and request for appointment of attorney form. We'll ask you to sign the top copy of the form and return it to us. That just indicates that you received your copies of the form. If you'd like to appeal your sentence, you need to fill out the remaining copies of the form, mail those to the address listed in the form within 42 days. Alternatively, if you know now that you want to appeal, you can fill those out before you leave and we'll take them from you before you go.
Your Honor, what was your sentence on count 4?
15 to the 320 months.
Will you be giving him credit for time served? He
Yes.
wasn't on parole at the time that this offense occurred, but in the meantime was discharged from parole.
I think he's entitled to 435 days, so I'm going to give him 435 days credit.
We agree, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, the record should reflect that you have a copy of the notice of right to appellate review form signed by Mr. Trevino, and I'm placing that in the file. I believe that concludes for today, unless Ms. Wise or Mr. Dave, you have anything else.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
So who needs to fill out the rest of it? Is he trying to file his appeal to fill out the file?
Oh, yeah, I'll be right over. Go to my office, okay? I'll be over in a minute.
Mr. Rose and Mr. Rodriguez.
You haven't done Mr. Spansky, right?
No, I haven't. Rhonda was logged in earlier, but she's not now. I don't know.
Okay. I'm gonna go over to my office and log in.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
I'll have you come back to the jury. Just Sir, you can got you back there.